Hey there, Bill Deweese from VoiceOverRevolution.com. And today, answering listener questions. Well, I have a singular question to address today, and it's in response to my recent email that I sent out to those on my email list asking for their most pressing problems. And this comes from Sean Jensen. And Sean writes, his biggest and most pressing problem is approaching prospects. Who and how? So for the sake of this conversation, since you said prospects, we're going to limit this to people who really have control to hire you directly. So in other words, I'm not going to talk about agents and casting directors and such. We may do that at another time, but let's talk about what I would consider to be prospects, actual end clients. Okay, so who and how? Well, first of all, who? Well, who hires voice talent? It would typically be through a couple of categories. One would be commercial production companies. There are a lot of companies out there that produce radio and TV commercials, and that's all they do. And a simple Google search can bring those to the top, so you can find them. In addition to that, would be video production companies who do more than just commercials. They actually do a broad range of things. Anything from corporate video to e-learning to event videos and commercials as well. So production facilities would be the broad category. So and let's get even specific within that. So if you're looking to target a specific person or persons through that, who would you look for? Well, typically the job titles would be something like creative director. That would be a common job title. Producer would be another. Those would probably be the two most common titles. Although a lot of the companies, production companies, video production companies out there in particular, they're a lot of them are small shops, meaning 1, 2, 3 people. And anybody and everybody at that company may be involved in helping to select voice talent. So that's who. So how do you approach them? I have a very simple approach, and there's really two primary ways that you can do this. Well, there are 3 ways. One is, and the first would be that you could literally go up and knock on a door, which would be fine. I've never done that myself, not to say that you can't, but the only reason I don't is because with it being a global marketplace, there is an endless supply of prospects that I can reach out to through email and through phone calls. It just doesn't necessitate burning gas and time in my car. So anyhow, that's the reason that I approach it that way. With that being said, there are really 2 primary ways, email and telephone. If I'm reaching out by phone, and by the way, if you're not doing this, I would really encourage that you give it a shot. It's often referred to as cold calling, which strikes fear in the hearts of most mortals. And for good reason. I mean, I understand. I've been there, but I've also done it enough to know that it's not as big a deal and as brutal as most people think it will be, especially with voiceover talent. Because really, the approach is simply twofold. One, asking to talk to the person who works with voice talent. That's the first thing. Second, once you get that person on the phone or you get their voicemail, what you're asking is if they're currently accepting voiceover demos. That's the conversation. You're not asking them to buy anything. You're not asking them to hire you. You don't have to strike up a big conversation. Respect their time, and you just limit it to those things. Who's responsible for working with voice talent? And once you get that person, are you currently accepting voiceover demos? To which the answer is almost always yes. I've rarely had somebody tell me no. That doesn't mean they'll hire you, but that means, they're always on the lookout for talent. And then at that point, it's just a matter of getting either directing them to your website or sending them an email with a link to your demo or an attached MP3, which is probably a last option. And then, that's how you make the contact with the prospect to begin that whole process of being considered and getting hired. The other is through email, in which case, instead of asking if they're currently accepting demos, because at that point, you don't want to start a back and forth. It's not likely they're going to respond to you, then you respond back, and then they're going to respond again. So instead of requesting for a response, I simply say something to the effect that I'm a professional voiceover talent, and if they're ever in need of a male voice, I would invite them to check out my demos at BillDeweese.com. So it's a simple invitation to visit your website. Understand that most people will not. It's just the law of email marketing. Most people will never look at or open or pay attention to your email. And that's okay. They don't have to. And you don't need everybody to. But if you know only a small portion is going to, then that means you need to send out a lot to get a little. And that's probably a sales funnel discussion we'll have on another day. So, Sean, those are the answers to your questions. I would encourage you now that you're armed with this information, that you go out there and you begin contacting those prospective clients and finding out if they're accepting demos or inviting them to check out your demo and start that process of cultivating some new clients. Thanks for checking out the video. Hope you'll give it a thumbs up and subscribe and share it with your friends. Talk to you soon.